in the Movieland Spotlight is Amos Crawley, an actor known from his appearances in Goosebumps, Billy Madison, and my favorite, Night of the Twisters. Thank you so much for joining us today, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in the film industry and who inspired you?
Yeah, my folks were both in the industry. My grandparents too, actually, on my dad's side. So it's a fairly pedestrian story. I think my mom had an audition and didn't have a babysitter, and so brought me along with her. And they said, "Hey, we need a kid," and that kind of was the beginning of it. It was a commercial or something. I don't totally remember, but that would have been the beginning of it. And then it was sort of just sort of something I fell into. And then around about 13 or 14, I went to the Stratford Festival in Ontario, which is in Canada, and saw a production of Waiting for Godot, starring Tom McCamus and Stephen Wilmette. And it blew me away. I thought it was really great. And I'd been doing commercials and TV shows and stuff, for 10 years at that point. But it was the first time that I thought, I would like to understand a little bit more about the mechanics of this art form and really get to know it. So as a teenager, I started to read books about it and take classes. And then I eventually went to theater school. And so I had kind of a weird, I had a professional career before I had any training. I put the horse before the cart that way.
Yeah, it looks like you accomplished a lot of those amazing voice acting roles, like straight off the bat that you were in Baba, Little Bear, and even the Magic School Bus. I was going to say, what was it like working within those roles at such an early age? How did you really pick that up?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but specifically with shows like Babar, I think I was 5 or so when I started doing that. And it's just one of those quirks of fate that I was a strong reader at a really early age. And the way that most voiceover stuff works is you're just standing at a microphone with a script in front of you. And if you are hyper literate, it makes life a lot easier. And I think that when you look at all the kids who did those shows, Kristen Fairley or Lisa Yamamoto or Nico Psibiwan, I think if you were to ask us, we all started to read really early, which is just sort of a lucky thing. Not to take anything away from those very talented voice actors who can do amazing gymnastics with their breath and stuff, but at least in my case, I think that had as much to do with it as anything else.
Yeah, it's good to see that you still excelled from there. That's something that was so spontaneous, and especially voice acting. It's very hard to progress. So it's good to see that you had a career after that. And it seems to be that you dove into the darker side of television pretty quickly, as well as with a couple episodes on Tales from the Crypt, with the John Casey, the Crypt Keeper himself. What was that experience like?
Well, I wish I could say that I got to meet him. But I think he was recording in LA and we were recording in Toronto. But it was still pretty exciting because he voiced the cartoon, but he voiced the live action, or the skeleton at the beginning of all the live action ones. And that was a big show for me. I loved that show. That used to be on, 10 o'clock on Friday nights or something. And it's like you had no school the next day. And I loved to watch it.
I never got to see the cartoon, so I was actually quite new to knowing that it existed. But I was a very big fan of the movie Demon Knight. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask you a serious question. Are you afraid of the dark?
Yeah, sometimes depends on the situation. There's the dark in your house, and then there's the dark in the alleyway,
Well, Cakes, seriously, tell me a little bit about the Ghastly Grinner.
So the Ghastly Grinner, it's funny, when you're a kid, you get these gigs and you go and you do them and you never really know what's going to happen. And for me, it was during COVID and the COVID lockdowns that stuff started to sort of come out of the woodwork to me. I guess people had lots of time at home and they had access to social media and stuff. And people were suddenly reaching out and saying, can we talk about this episode? It's one of the top 10 episodes of this series and everybody loves it. And I had no idea. So it is this thing of amazing luck gratitude at having been sort of accidentally involved in something that became a memory for folks. For my own part, actually doing it was great fun because I was 14 or 15 or something, and I went to Montreal for the week, and it was a really fun, relaxed set, and I liked punk rock and comic books, and so I kind of got to just sort of be in my element a little bit. And the director, Ron Oliver, was right there with me and playing along and being who I needed him to be for that to be a fun experience. And so I have a lot of fond memories of it just from the actual shooting and the actual creation of it. So that it went on to become something beyond that is just icing on the cake, if you'll forgive the cliche.
No, I got you. It's a good episode, and it kind of reminds me of like a dark twist of the never-ending story. You know how the comic books come to life as it's going, and I like the dark in your character, like you say, like the punk rocker in there is kind of there. It's a great fit for that episode, and I was very surprised. I got to watch it again. It's something I've only just picked up on recently too. But when I seen your filmography, and that's like kind of one of the main stills of your IMDb, I'm like, what is that? I got to see that. It's a great episode. Yeah, I should be very proud of it.
I seem to remember them invoking at least like the costume and the hair department. It was like Tim Burton was the model for it. That was what they were sort of like with the hair and the outfit. That's what they were sort of trying to reference.
It's very good. It seems like this show helps sway you into a darker dimension with Goosebumps. Next, for the episode The Haunted Mask, can you tell me how this role came about?
It was just a straight up audition. It was just if I recall correctly, in the first part of The Haunted Mask, I don't actually have a ton to do. I'm just sort of like a stock bully character. Where we were lucky is that they brought that sort of team back to do part 2, which I was a little more heavily involved in. And then I went on to do another episode of Goosebumps, my voice only. So I was relatively involved with it as a franchise. But the first one, I want to say Susan Hart was the casting director, but I don't know that for sure. And it would have just been a straight up audition. And it was a director I had worked with before and would work with again. Including on a movie I think you're going to ask about in a little while, because the first episode was directed by Tim Bond. But it was certainly the second one that I felt a little bit more of a part of and had more to do in and around.
Okay, so you don't reckon Are You Afraid of the Dark was any influence for them to get you into Goosebumps at all?
I mean, I would have to know the minds of those producers.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the time, because both those shows were shot in Canada, at the time, virtually every Canadian child actor shows up in one or both of those shows at some point because they were anthology series, because they were kid-friendly or kid-centric. Everyone I knew did them, funnily enough. And if you look at any, despite a level of success later on, if you look at almost any actor who was Canadian and grew up in the 80s or early 90s, and you look at their IMDb page, you're going to find one or both of those shows.
Goosebumps was a major hit in the 90s, especially the books themselves. I don't believe there wasn't a kid who didn't love the show as well as the iconic theme song. Like, that's just the main thing I love about that show.
Yeah, it goes much harder than it needed to for a kids show.
Yes, it does. It still came on like very frequently lately, and you just can't help it. Yeah. It's a great song. But yeah, I can see that there is a major cult following from the series still today, with conventions and all sorts that you're involved with. How does it feel to be connected with such a historical brand?
It's surreal in a way. Because what happens when you go to these conventions and stuff is that people come up and they say, you know, every Halloween, my tradition is to dig out my VHS copy of the Haunted Mask, and I watch it with my kids, and they now ask about it. And I think we all have those traditions, right? Like, I have movies that I watch every Christmas or every, you know, whatever it is. And they're important to me. And when someone tells you that you are part of that holiday or that night or that tradition for them, it's quite strange. But it it affords a kind of immediate intimacy with somebody, where you're not friends, but like I genuinely, and this is going to sound like pandering, but I genuinely care about these people. Like I
Yeah.
genuinely, like, it feels like, oh, we've forged some kind of bond through time and space without ever actually having met
Yeah.
until this moment. And then the other really cool thing that has come out of it is speaking to people who are writers or producers or directors in their own right, who are working in a horror genre, and saying Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark were their entry-level drugs, for lack of a better term, right? Like that was the first thing that introduced them to a thing that becomes, I think for a lot of people, becomes a real lifelong attachment. I think that fans in that genre are very loyal to the genre and to the style and to the important metaphors that are really only able to be done in that stylized form, if that makes sense. I think that it really allows for a freedom of storytelling and an exploration of what it is to be a little bit outside or a little bit different. And so you meet a lot of really cool people who are passionate. And again, you just sort of accidentally were part of the inciting incident for them.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, and it's kind of like, how do you respond to that? It's got to be pretty hard to elaborate. For you, it's probably just a weekend or something. Like,
Yeah, it's sort of it's a week out of your life. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a big part of someone's life, and I get that. There's a lot of movies like that are a big part of my lives too. So it's huge. But yeah, Goosebumps unfortunately was only a minor entertaining add-on to my childhood, unfortunately, though, because it was a rarity for me to come across, because today's Goosebumps streaming everywhere, so you can watch it everywhere. But mine, I get to catch it on TV. I only ever caught 2 episodes, so I never got to see your episode back on the day, unfortunately, but I did catch A Night on Terror Tower, the one I liked a lot. And it had the Goosebumps game as well on PC. I don't know if you ever played that one, Escape from Horrorland.
No.
You never
Wow.
played that? I played the shit out of that game. That was so cool. You got to give it a shot, man. Being a Goosebumps cast member, give it a try. You have a blast. That is so much fun and funny. It's entertaining. There's YouTube playthroughs if you can't find it.
Okay.
I rewatch someone playing it through just to get some nostalgia. Yeah, it's great. Being involved in the Goosebumps franchise, do you have a favorite Goosebumps book?
It's funny because I was a little older when those books came out, so I was more familiar with the Fear Street books, which are also by R.L. Stine, but they were for a little bit of an older audience, so that was sort of my speed more. But now my youngest is reading the Goosebumps books, so I think I have to like sort of ride his coattails, because I think Night of the Living Dummy and Say Cheese and Die are his favorites. So I'm going to say those are my favorites too, because he excitedly talks about them.
That's good. Yeah, nice connection there. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a book reader, but I like watching the movie adaptations of books. I liked looking at the covers of the Goosebumps books, though. That was the most entertaining thing, like back in the 90s when they came out. Like, the stores were stacked with them all next to each other, and you just couldn't help but just like, yeah, that's some great artwork. R.L. Stine was onto some good stuff, and got to say, did you ever get a chance to talk to him at all, or did he send you any messages?
He was around while we were shooting, because I was in the pilot episode of the TV show. He was around kind of overseeing and making sure everything went well, and shooting his little intro and outro sequences.
Yeah.
So I would hardly say that I got to know him well, but I certainly chatted with him and got him to sign a book. And
Great.
And later on, when Facebook was a brand new thing, I think other than maybe my mom, he actually became my first Facebook friend. I've since gotten rid of most of my social media, but I do remember that, and he sent me a message saying, "You're all grown up," which was quite sweet.
That's a great story there. Well, one last Goosebumps question for you. What do you think about the reboot movie with Jack Black?
I have not seen it, so
Oh,
I have no opinions about it. I know it exists, and I'm told it's fantastic. But somehow or other, I have missed it. I will get to it at some point.
next up, your feature alongside Adam Sandler as his high school buddy in Billy Madison. What was it like working on that set alongside Adam?
It was pretty terrific. It's an interesting thing because Adam Sandler wasn't Adam Sandler yet.
Yeah,
The CD was out. They're all going to laugh at you. And he had been on SNL, and I certainly was a fan and knew who he was, and it was exciting to meet him. But he wasn't what he has since become, which is one of the most bankable movie stars in the world, right? So it was sort of interesting in that sense, because I seem to remember him. Nervous isn't the word that I would use, but it was a different thing, right? He'd done a lot of stand-up, he'd done a lot of sketch comedy, but as far as like a narrative film, I think he had done Airheads maybe, and that's about in which he plays like a minor role. So he was really like on top of his game and working hard, but he was the sweetest guy. And he was never, he was not a guy who was going off and hiding in his trailer. And there were all these kids, and we were all right at the right age to have loved Saturday Night Live. And he hung out with us constantly and in between every take, and did impressions and did jokes with us and knew our names. And, like, it was really kind and wonderful. As was Josh Mostel, who like had all kinds of stories for me. He had done a movie with Henry Rollins, who was a big hero of mine. And Tamara Davis directed the film, who was married to Mike D from the Beastie Boys, and had amazing stories for me about being backstage at Lollapalooza and stuff. And may he rest in peace, Norm Macdonald was the sweetest, kindest guy. And everybody really like took care of the kids and let us be part of this like goofy, weird thing that, again, stands up somehow, because I've watched that movie with my kids, and it's just as like anarchic and fun and weird as it ever was. And I think that's part of its lasting power.
it's a timeless classic. It's really a masterpiece. But yeah, you're right. It's actually was Adam's first lead role. Before that, yeah, like you say, Airheads, he was the third co-star, and he did Coneheads as well. But again, he was that's a still spin-off Saturday Night Live thing. But yeah, he was only in that very briefly. So I was going to say, like, what did you say? It was still hard keeping a straight face working around with him?
Probably. But it was also, at that point, it's a high pressure thing being on a film set.
Yeah.
And I think especially if you've grown up as a child actor, the idea of kind of being professional is instilled in you really early, maybe to too much of a degree, depending on how old you are and what it's like. And so you really try to be nailing it down, especially if you're there as a supporting role, right? Like it's not the Amos Crawley show. It's Billy Madison. Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, it's a timeless classic, that one. I still quote that movie today. Have you got a favorite quote from the film at all?
I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say it's probably my line about the parking cone, right? Like that's I take a certain amount of pride in that. But if I'm going to be generous and not have it that, it's definitely Stop Looking at Me, Swan.
I was going to say shampoo is better.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Yeah. Now there's so many lines in that, and so many great actors as well. Chris Farley's also in the film very briefly, and I love everything he does.
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with Adam or anyone else from the cast for like any reunions or anything like that?
No, not as of yet. But if you're listening, Adam, give me a call. We'll work something out. I'll try and squeeze it in.
I think it should happen. Like that film, oh my God, it's huge. It was absolutely huge for us. Like I know it probably wasn't a massive box office hit, but it's definitely become a classic amongst videos. And as I said, everyone's still quoting it. And as I said, the cast is huge. He also had Sonya Blade on set. I heard she rapped Billy Madison and immediately flew out to film Mortal Kombat because she had to replace Cameron Diaz, who was originally cast as Sonya Blade, but she broke her wrist. So it's like she goes from Adam Sandler to Shang Tsung. It's
Yeah.
insane.
The big exciting one for me on that set was getting to meet Steve Buscemi.
Oh
Um,
yes.
who's in it only very briefly, but luckily happened to be there on a day that I was there, and I was a massive fan of Reservoir Dogs. I had seen it several times, and I remember sitting in a makeup trailer, getting powdered, and he came in and he sat down next to me, and I just was like, oh my god, oh my god, and in typical fashion, when those sorts of things happen, he's like the nicest guy in the world. He just turned around and goes, "Hey, I'm Steve. How you doing?" And we chatted for a few minutes, and that I was quite starstruck for that to happen.
He's such an underrated actor, and I wish he got more, center roles. Like he seems to always be that, sidekick and Con Air. Like his role in Con Air. Like you can see, he can play serious. Armageddon. Love him in
Yeah.
Armageddon as well. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's amazing actor. So I was gonna say, is there any more memorable kind of moments on set there?
I remember Sandler doing a Jay Mascis impersonation. I was a big Dinosaur Jr. fan, and so he like pulled out a guitar and started doing a really spot on Jay Mascis impersonation. That stands out to me. We shot it at this high school in Toronto, or a lot of it at this high school in Toronto, and there was a summer camp of a bunch of kids I'd gone to junior high school with, happened to be in the summer camp, and I remember feeling pretty cool, strolling past them on my way to set, and I maybe got some credibility from that.
Yeah, I had a bad case of loser denial as well. I'm gonna completely. Nah, I already had that written down to say, but then I'm like, you've already kind of said it, so it's not going to work. How about?
Yes.
All right, let me follow up with a different one. Who
Yeah.
would you rather bone? No. All right, so 1996, the best tornado movie in history hit the big screen, and that, of course, is Twister with Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. I gotta say, like, I got to see it at the cinema when it came out, which, of course, I actually got to see it at the drive-in, which made that scene even more insane and surreal when the tornado hit the drive-in screen. But that was an experience that a tornado film has yet to replicate for me, or even come close to, in my opinion. But there's a couple good ones. And funny enough, one is so rare, you cannot find it anywhere in Australia, except as a VHS rip on YouTube. It's very blurry and unwatchable, unfortunately. But back in the day, I was lucky enough to catch it on live daytime TV and record it. That, of course, is your feature film alongside Casper with his idle hands, Stan himself, Devin Sawa, in my second favorite tornado movie of all time, Night of the Twisters.
I remember so clearly one day on set, because I think the shoot was probably about a month long or so for that movie. And one day, Tim Bond, who was the director, came in and he looked kind of consternated. And we said, "Tim, what's up?" And he said, "I just found out Steven Spielberg's making a movie with the same plot as ours." Which was this very funny thing, because we didn't know at the time whether we were going to go theatrical or straight to video. And he sort of said, "I guess we're going straight to video."
Really?
He said, "I don't think we can compete with Steven Spielberg." But it was one of those things where I think the inclination would be to think that it was like a ripoff of something that was already, but they were actually made simultaneously. It's just obviously one was a significantly bigger budget, more A-list version.
Yeah, that's what one of my first questions was going to be. Was it made simultaneously or like before it? Because it kind of looked like it was like a 95 like date on there, but when Twister came out in 96, or did they both release in 96?
I guess so. I have to admit the cobwebs are in my brain when it comes to that kind of thing. But
yeah, because like I cannot explain to you how satisfying it was to finish watching Twister and then catch this almost immediately after. Like it was like I needed more Twister, and like as I said, back in that day, movies are still at the cinema for a long time, so like I needed more tornado movies. And this one, I remember seeing it on the schedule. I'm like, yes, like I was a tornado fanatic at this point. I needed more tornado films, and this was so satisfying to watch, even though it was, I could tell it was a lot lower of a budget there was so much there that made it entertaining and scary as well. Like, because it's, being a kid watching it too, like you put yourself in the shoes of those kids, you're home alone and a tornado's coming. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
This one's actually based off a book that's somewhat a true story. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah, I think I would have read it at the time. And though I think it was heavily stylized for the movie version, I think it became a lot more focused on the kids and the sort of adventure aspect of it.
Yeah, you said the director said they were making the same film as Spielberg. So what were they adapting a lot of the same kind of storm chaser aspect first? Do you know, or?
No, I don't know about that. I think it was just the idea that here we are making this action movie about tornadoes, and then you find out that the man who made Raiders of the Lost Ark is making a movie about the same subject, and you kind of go like, oh.
Yeah, it kind of always happens. Like, you got Armageddon, then you got Deep Impact. It's just like two of the same things always follow each other, and you got to pick which one's better. But this one is no contest, unfortunately, but like it's still a very great film. And I hate to see it like so forgotten in a way. I was going to say, does anyone ever really bring it up to you much at all? Because it seems like a very rare gem to come by.
I have to say that I am constantly surprised. We were speaking earlier about going and doing convention circuits and stuff, and inevitably there are always a handful of people who come up and want to talk about that film. But I think you're right. I think it is largely a forgotten or fringe or weird thing. But the fan base that it does have seem to be very, very dedicated, because it seems like 99 out of 100 people won't have seen it, but the one person who has seen it like 45 times.
Yeah, 46. I just watched it before the interview. But yeah, I'd love to see a HD copy of this. Get it on streaming sites. Don't let it sit there and be forgotten. I know it was pressed on VHS in America. I can see on Wikipedia it said something about a DVD release, but I cannot find a copy of that anywhere. So if a HD copy exists, whoever's got it, someone please get it on a streaming service somewhere and give this film some justice. Don't let it be forgotten. So great. But again, I've got to say, what was it like working on a disaster film set? Like, you said this was low budget and you said it was a month, but there's a house set to explode. What was it like? Were there wind fans everywhere? Like, it would have been insane.
Wind fans and like fire hoses basically spraying down on you. And it was my first encounter ever with a green screen, which was still like kind of state-of-the-art technology at the time. Considering what we can do now, it's sort of funny to think about it, because we were just literally in front of a green wall while dudes shook the car from side to side while we were sitting in it. But it was the first time I had ever encountered that. And, it was a lot of just like hanging out with Devin, hanging out with Laura Bertram, who Laura and I were actually on a TV show together in Canada that I don't think ever played. Certainly wouldn't have played in your part of the world, and I don't even know if it ever played in the States, but it was fairly popular here in Canada, so we had known each other for a long, long time. It was a lot of fun. I mean, you say it was only a month, and I guess in terms of like really big budget Hollywood stuff, that is true, only a month, but for jobbing actors, for people like me who have generally been, a guest star on an episode of this or a couple of days on this, actually being on set every day for a month was pretty exciting, and it gave a sense of like cohesion and consistency that I think when you're a child actor you sometimes lack a little bit. So I actually have very fond memories of it, because it, as often as not in this industry, you don't even really get to learn everybody's name, let alone know much about them. Whereas that was a project, not the only one I've ever been involved with, but one of the few where it really did sort of become a temporary community.
Yeah, well, a month can seem like a long time, especially with daytime TV shows. They usually only last, a couple of days to a week. But this one, I think it's impossible for you guys to have done it. There was such a mess in some of these scenes. It would take a week to clean some of this stuff up. There was a mess.
Yeah, luckily I didn't have to be around for that part.
Come on, get them up. Get a dustpan. No, I think you and Devin really sold this film, and Devin's an amazing actor in everything I've seen him in. What was it like working alongside him?
It was good. We were just a couple of teenage kids. I wish that I remembered more. I remember us sneaking out behind the trailer to smoke cigarettes and making sure nobody was watching. And he was certainly a magnitude of popularity above me. I will admit I didn't totally know who he was when we were starting, but I got to know very quickly what sort of following he had, and he's certainly done very well. And yeah, we had kind of had a few missed opportunities, funnily enough. There was a film that I was involved with that sort of fell through, but then when it came back, uh, became a project again. I wasn't involved, but he was. So we almost worked together on back-to-back projects, but
Oh,
didn't
no.
quite. Yeah. I don't know what he's up to. He showed up in an episode of Hacks, and he was terrific in it. I remember seeing that and being like, hey, I knew that guy when we were kids.
I was going to say, do you keep in touch at all? Seems like a little distant.
Yeah, no, we grew up, he's Canadian as well, but he grew up on the other side of the country from me. So no.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, obviously he went on to, do Final Destination. I think he did Chucky more recently, a TV series.
Yeah.
For Chucky. Yeah, that's more of his recent work I've seen him in. But yeah, anything he does is amazing. He did this one with John Travolta, a really low budget film. Did you see that one? Where he's like fan or something. I think it's like super fan or something like that. And John Travolta is playing this real big super fan of Devin Sawa.
Oh.
I think he like tortures him and stuff. It's pretty intense.
Oh, wow. No, I don't know this. I'll have to seek it out.
Yeah, that's a good film. But anyway, you also had one of the Dukes of Hazzard on set. What was it like working with him?
He was lovely. He's a sweet guy. That was more like, I grew up, Dukes of Hazzard was like, if you stayed home sick from school, like that was a daytime TV show that we had for sure. So I certainly had seen a lot of it. I remember one night we were shooting in some small town in Ontario, and we didn't get done for the day. We were supposed to get X number of scenes shot, and for whatever reason, some technical thing or everything took longer than it was supposed to. So instead of all of us getting back to Toronto where we were based to our hotels, or for me back to my home, they ended up putting us up in this motel in this small town. It just made more sense to just keep everybody there for the night. So Schneider and David Ferry, who played the sort of storm chaser guy, and I all went to dinner together to the pub restaurant attached to the motel. It was sort of the only place to go. And we were sitting there. It was karaoke night. And I don't know how much of a karaoke culture there is where you live, but there is this thing here where the guy who hosts the karaoke night is usually some kind of like too big for his britches, kind of like, this is my thing, this is my, it's kind of like the cliche that you see in movies of like the guy who was the high school football star and he never got over it. Sometimes that's like, this guy was the best singer and he was in a band in high school, but now he hosts the karaoke night and it's a big deal. And he noticed Schneider and he started chirping at him a little bit because Schneider, in addition to being an actor, had quite a successful career as a country and western singer. And had a couple of records and stuff. And so he kept saying, "Oh, the Dukes of Hazzard's here. Is Dukes of Hazzard going to sing a song?" And, Schneider kind of laughed and chuckled, and we went back to our chicken wings or whatever it was. And then finally Schneider was like, "You know what? I think I will sing." And he got up and he did like 3 numbers in a row and everybody went nuts. And I remember looking over at the guy who hosted the show and he was just kind of sitting in the corner, like nursing a beer, pissed off that somebody like took all his... Yeah, exactly. And I just remember finding that very funny, and Schneider did it with great humor, but it wasn't. It was finally like he finally had enough, I think, of getting teased, and he's like, okay, well, I think there's only one way for this to stop, and he had a real golden voice. I think he sang a Hank Williams song or something. It was terrific.
Right. Do you remember? I was going to say what song it was. So Hank Williams. And I didn't know who he was when I first seen Night of the Twisters, and unfortunately, it wasn't my favorite character. But now I look back on it, I go, oh, I probably should have appreciated him more. But I wasn't into Dukes of Hazzard at all as a kid, so I didn't. It just went way off of my head, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen Dukes of Hazzard in 30 years. It may not have aged particularly well, but I remember watching it a lot as a kid.
Being up there on top of the world where the tornadoes do happen, unfortunately, we do not get them down here. When we do, it's very rare, very small ones. Curious, have you ever seen or experienced a real tornado before?
We get them occasionally. Again, it's not like the Midwest in the States or something where they get really bad ones. So I have been in very, very minor ones. So minor that they really just feel like a particularly windy day. Not anything that no cows are being swept up or anything. It's just a lot of garbage blowing around and stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty the extent of what happens here. Maybe a roof might go off but hardly anything.
Our big natural disaster where I am is we get ice storms where we lose electricity and stuff because everything freezes.
Like snow or?
Well, actually, like freezing rain usually, and then it just like covers everything, and then an immediate cold snap where everything freezes, and so stuff just sort of shuts down. That happens every couple of years. That's our big natural disaster.
Yeah, well, we actually don't get snow here at all. I've never seen snow in my life. And during Christmas time, getting towards it, it's actually summertime. So when I see Christmas in the movies, I'm confused. Yeah, we get 40 on Christmas Day. Pretty much every Christmas, it's 40 plus. Yeah. It's boiling hot, air conditioners going, and it's just, oh my God. Yeah, as far as tornado guides, I pretty much memorized Devin's like tornado survival guides. What do we do in a tornado? I'm like bathtub, blanket, or hop in the shower, open the windows, although I'm pretty sure that's wrong now, but that's just some really cool stuff in that film that I've carried with me forever, and I think it's a special film that people should definitely check out. Tornado films have become a lot like shark films to me. You know, there's Jaws.
Oh, right. Yeah, I guess there's all those ones. Yeah, I guess there's the sort of Sci-Fi Channel ones.
Yeah.
That's a sort of different thing, right? Intentionally campy is never as much fun as accidentally campy, for my money.
I think like it's disrespect to Twister, in my opinion. It needs to be a monster movie, you know? Like that's how you feel. Those tornadoes are screaming at you. The roar. Yeah. It's intimidating. But no, like I said, there's so many of them. There's a couple good ones, but there's a million terrible ones. I try them all because I want a good shark movie and I want a good tornado movie.
Sure, yeah.
But they always seem to fail. But Night of the Twisters, top two. Close three, I would say for me, is the found footage tornado movie Into the Storm. Did you catch that one?
No. I'll have to. I'm gonna have a whole list after this. Things I gotta check out.
I love recommending movies, but yeah, Into the Storm, what I'm going to say in advance is the tornadoes are absolutely amazing. Like throughout the whole film, they did amazing, especially the end. They paid it off just like it felt like Twisted. I mean, almost an A+ movie for me.
Cool.
They failed though with the casting. I don't know if it was just me, but it's like they spent all their budget on the CGI and everything and made that look brilliant. But then I don't know who they got in this film, but I don't know how to run scared from tornadoes or sell it. Unfortunately, that's where I think it failed. Twisters, the new Twisters came out. I think they should have took the tornadoes from Into the Storm because it had good actors in Twisters. But it wasn't.
But the CGI is not great.
The CGI is not great. It's like watching Jurassic World and then Jurassic Park.
Right.
The people who did Jurassic World did Twisters as well. So to me, they did the same thing they did to Jurassic Park. It's okay. They got great actors in there. But they were trying to be dusty for some reason. They're woohoo all the time. And I just wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
It was too comical. You know, they're trying to be like cowboys riding the tornadoes. It's like, I want to be scared. And there's got to be a monster.
Right.
So yeah, having another tornado movie come out that's perfect is something I'm craving since Twister came out. And I don't know if we're ever going to get it. I really hope we do. Besides tornadoes and Goosebumps, any new projects on the horizon coming up for you?
I don't know what the air schedule down there will be, but here I just had a guest spot on a show called Boston Blue, which is a cop show. I'm going to be in the next season of Reacher and the next season of
Wow.
Interview with the Vampire, just in small little roles. A new spin-off of The Boys I'm going to be featured in. I don't know when that's going to happen. And we shot it under a code name, so I don't even know what it's going to be called. But I've been very lucky to kind of just plug away and do little things, and I still work a lot in live theater in and around Southern Ontario. But you just kind of make a living, and I get to play make believe fairly regularly, which is nice.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You do a very good job at it, and I love your character and all these movies I've seen. And to say you're in Interview with the Vampire, I did catch that new TV series. Was that a very brief role and you're reprising it?
Well, I'll show up in the new season, and it's a blink and you'll miss me, but it was still pretty cool to do because they have such extraordinary sets, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, the first season was good. I know there's a second season out. I haven't seen that one, so this would be season 3 you're in?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, yeah, interesting. I got to catch up on season 2. It was very good, the first one.
Yeah, it's fun.
Boys.
It's fun.
Yeah. I love the original with Brad Pitt too. Tom Cruise, great movie. So The Boys spinoff, can you give me any more information on that?
I can't, actually. I legally can't.
Yeah, I gotcha. I think there was like a Gen Z or something. Is that related to it? Gen something like that?
That is that Gen V, I think it was called. Yeah. This is separate even from that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Madly looking forward to that. But yeah, last question here at Movieland. Yeah. We obviously love recommending movies. Can you give us 6 movies to watch that you love? Old, new, sky's the limit.
My favorite movie of all time is a movie called Down by Law. It's from the mid-'80s. It's directed by Jim Jarmusch, and it stars John Lurie, Tom Waits, and Roberto Benigni. It's a prison break film. But you don't actually see them escaping from prison. I kind of love that about it, is that the most exciting part of the movie is actually cut out of it. But it's a beautiful sort of contemplative kind of weird film. But I highly recommend Down by Law because I really love it. I was in this movie, so it's a little bit cheating, but I really like a movie called The Oak Room that came out a couple of years ago. It's sort of a creepy horror film. Starring my friend Ari Millen, who got me in to play just a very small role in it. But I'm quite proud of it, partially because it had originally been a stage play that I directed. So it was sort of neat to see it reimagined that way. So I'm going to say that. Now things are just randomly popping into my head. As a kid, I really loved The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Yeah.
Which I think is a movie that probably holds up to this day. I haven't seen it in a lot of years, but I really, really loved it at the time. In a more recent vein, I liked Sinners a lot. I thought Sinners was pretty terrific.
I think that's movie of the year material right there.
Yeah, it was pretty terrific. Still fairly recent, but not as much as I remember being really affected by Moonlight. I don't know if you saw Moonlight, but it was a film where I walked. I had to sit in the theater for several minutes after that movie just because it had a real profound effect on me. I'm going to reiterate Bob Roberts with the 16-year-old Jack Black in essentially a cameo role because I want you to see it and I want more people to see it. And then I'm going to say, because I feel like there's nothing fun on this list, I'm going to say that everybody at least once a year should watch The Jerk with Steve Martin.
I haven't seen it. I'm very well of it, but definitely got to check it out. I love Steve Martin, so
that's
definitely
a go-to. We were talking earlier about quoting things. That's a go-to. Okay, every once in a while, my wife and I will just yell at each other from across the house. He hates these cans, which you will only get if you've seen the movie. But
I'll queue up all 6 ones that I haven't seen at least, and definitely give you some feedback of what I thought of those ones. Never got enough to watch on my list, so I appreciate those recommendations, buddy. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. I got to say, don't forget to cut your underwear so it breaks easier when they give them those wedgies. Keep giving the world some goosebumps, buddy. Wish you all the best with your future work.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.